Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to our live for Life Training Academy. We are excited to be here tonight. Myself, Pastor Tanisha J.L. Patel, as well as my husband.
Kavlish K. Patel.
All right, all right. And so we're going to jump right in tonight. As you know, we're doing our lives on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. So do me a favor, drop a comment below, a question, something that you have been enjoying the most about our deep dives into chaplaincy, questions that you may have. Please do share those. If you know someone who has been interested in chaplaincy or talking about expanding their capacity for ministry opportunities, please share this with them. And if you're watching the replay, please drop a comment or a question below so that we can continue to bring you answers and insight into the opportunities for chaplaincy certification as chaplains. Tonight, we are going to talk about a silent belief that many of us leaders have carried, or some of you leaders still may carry, especially those of you who are considered leaders who are very dependable, you're very capable, and you're always available to people. I want you to listen very closely, pull up your seat, and let's just dive in. So that belief that burnout is a badge of honor, some kind of way. It kind of tells us that, if you're tired, it means that you are faithful. This is some people's perception or their personal beliefs about being overwhelmed, burnout, or just simply completely depleted. Whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, however the case may be. But this belief basically says that if you're drained, it means that you're committed. If you are tired, it means that you're faithful. If you are exhausted, it means that you're doing God's work. Now, all of that could be true. You could be faithful, you could be committed, you could be doing God's work. But if you find yourself constantly empty, depleted, exhausted, and burnout, and really not at a place where you don't want to do it, you cannot do it anymore, that is an indication that something needs to be checked. Something may be misaligned in your life. Now, burnout is not proof of obedience. Obedience is proof of obedience, not burnout. And exhaustion is not the evidence that you're looking for as it relates to understanding or knowing your calling in God. So in this particular video, we are going to talk about why burnout has become normalized in ministry settings. And when I say ministry settings, I don't want you to automatically think within the four walls of a church, because ministry happens in many places. But in those settings, we want to talk about why that has been normalized and why it was never meant to be that way. Scripture does not celebrate people collapsing, and it does teach us about sustainability, longevity, being able to stick with things for the long haul, but with your physical and mental and emotional being intact. So let's get right into our teaching points. First of all, burnout is often the result of uncontained responsibility. So everybody has responsibilities, has things that we need to take care of, whether you are a minister, whether you are a leader, in whatever capacity you're leading in, whether you are a pastor of sorts, senior pastor, associate pastor, and also if you are a chaplain or you're working, serving in that type of capacity, maybe even unofficially. Burnout does not come from caring too much. So just because we care a lot for people, it doesn't automatically mean that we should burn out. It comes from carrying what was never meant to be carried, and oftentimes alone. So sometimes what we do is we indulge ourselves in being overwhelmed and overworked, and we don't say anything. We don't tell any people, or at least we don't tell the right people that we're overwhelmed, that we need help. And so Burnout is not meant for us to carry a heavy load alone. God puts us in community. Sons live in community.
Yes,
And
yes.
so that is one way to help us to avoid burnout. Leaders absorb emotional pain without release. So this is where the uncontained responsibility comes in. And this is when we are responsible or when we take on responsibilities, but we don't know how to prioritize or we don't know how to contain those responsibilities. We have to remember that as leaders, sometimes we feel responsible for outcomes that we cannot control in people's lives. So it's important to know that when we are serving and ministering to people, we care deeply, but we cannot always control, in most cases, the circumstances or the results or what is going to take place afterwards. And so that helps us to, if we understand that, that helps us to have our responsibilities in the proper place. Another way to look at uncontained responsibility is to remember that leaders, sometimes we stay accessible without limits. That's uncontained responsibility.
Say that
You're
again.
not supposed to be accessible and available to everybody for 24/7. That's crazy. Even Jesus did not offer that type of availability physically.
Yes.
And then we have sometimes as leaders, we confuse our availability with faithfulness. Now, I'm going to say this faithfulness is good. If you're faithful over a few things, God will make you ruler over much. But availability and faithfulness is not the same thing. I'll say it again. Availability and faithfulness is not the same thing. And sometimes, as leaders, especially spiritual care leaders, we think that they are interchangeable. And so, if you're always available, you think that that is a badge of faithfulness. But it's not. It could be a badge of misprioritization, not to knock anyone who is faithful, not to knock anyone who is available, but we must know the differences between the two. So responsibility without structure, it could lead to depletion. Will you get tired in ministry? Will you get tired caring for people? Will you be tired being the one that people rely on and come to for counsel, come to when situations are tough? Will you be tired? Yes, you will physically sometimes be tired. Should you be exhausted and always ready to pass out? Absolutely not. Not when we understand that our responsibilities have to have a framework or a structure, not only to protect ourselves, but to protect those whom we serve. There's a scripture in Galatians chapter 6, verse 2 and 5. I'm not going to read the entire verses. You go back on your time and read them. But it talks about bearing one another's burdens. It also talks about each one must carry their own load. What I love about the scripture is it indicates that there is more than one person involved in this caring situation. So, bearing one another's burdens, meaning you have burdens, you may carry burdens, but someone else should be bearing burdens along with you as well. And each one of us carrying one another's load. And so this is not uncontained responsibility, but this is proper responsibility when we are providing spiritual care from a community resource where we can have help and we can have assistance, and that will help us to avoid burning out.
Awesome, awesome. I just wanted to share just a little bit, being a little bit personal between me and my wife as we were preparing these lessons for burnout. Lord just laid it upon my heart, this particular scripture, and it helps me so much because it's right in alignment with what we're talking about. So that's so awesome how God is giving us his heart and his mind. And coming from David's men forbid him from fighting to protect his life after he became exhausted and was nearly killed by giant Ishbi-Benob during a battle against the Philistines. So you can find out in 2 Samuel 21, 15, and 17. For chaplains, this highlights themes of necessary vulnerability, the spiritual importance of accepting help, right? Uh, and the responsibility of community care in preventing burnout, often framed as protecting a lamp of leadership. That's such a blessing, that to protect the lamp of leadership, when you have
Yeah.
good leadership, you want them to be around for a long time. And that's what the men of David did to help him with that aspect. The point that I want to bring out also as well, this reminds leaders and caregivers, right, that even the strongest among them have limits and face moments of weakness. Come on now.
Yeah.
I face weakness, right? But in weakness, our strength is made perfect, which is a normal part of life. Even Jesus experienced this, not necessarily a personal failure, right? So David's men recognized his value and forced him to stop fighting to ensure his safety,
So good.
right? And continued leadership, right? We need to evaluate so the burnout doesn't take us out, right? This serves as a metaphor for setting boundaries and ensuring that leaders do not burn out or have their light extinguished by overwork.
So good. So good.
Wow.
I know we talked about this before one of the videos or lives that we did with Jethro and
Mhm.
Moses, and how Moses was leading a multitude of people pretty much by himself. I want you to go ahead and dive a little bit deeper
Yeah,
into
most
that.
definitely. Hopefully. So even God established leaders were instructed to change their pace because, the right pace to move forward. Moses wasn't rebuked for lack of faith, right? He was corrected for lack of structure so he can be more effective and efficient instead of being completely burned out and exhausted. And we see what happened to him when he did do that, and we don't want that to happen to us, right?
Yes.
Example in Exodus 18 was, of course, Jethro and Moses. Moses was leading well, but unsustainably, right? Jethro said, what you are doing is not good, because you're burning out, but you're not being sustainable. This wasn't a criticism, this was a protection. Thank God he did that for us, right? Moses didn't need more passion. He was so passionate, right? He needed delegation and order. That's what he needed. And we can find those scriptures in Exodus 18, 17, and 18 verse. And then Psalms 27 and 2, it says, it is vain to rise early and to stay up late.
So good, babe. So good. Thank you for bringing it out. So we are talking about how chaplaincy brings structure, and not just because not everyone is going to be a chaplain. Not everyone feels that call or that burden to step in chaplaincy, but for anyone who is in ministry, who has experienced or is experiencing burnout, this is applicable across the board. These are principles, scriptures that are applicable across the board. So specifically in the area of chaplaincy, it teaches leaders how to care without collapsing. How to care without collapsing. I want to ask you a question for those of you who are in ministry. When you got in ministry, specifically where you care for people directly, where people call you, where people rely on you, where you are spiritually caring for the needs of individuals, when you were called into ministry or invited into ministry or asked to serve in these different capacities, were you trained or were you forewarned of the different situations that will cause you to feel in seasons like you were going to collapse, like you were going to give up, like you were going to be overwhelmed, like it was just too difficult? Were you prepared for that? Well, what we're saying here is that chaplaincy has a structure that prepares people for these type of environments where there is potential to become overwhelmed because of the crisis that people tend to go through. It doesn't make your heart harden. So some people are afraid of structure. They're afraid of systems because you can't be free willy-nilly and pretty much come and go as you please, do whatever you want. But structure, it doesn't harden your heart, it just stabilizes it, right?
Yes,
it protects
yes.
your heart because there are structures, there are perimeters, there are rules and regulations that help you to stay within a, not confined, but to stay within a container that is safe. Now, emotional containment, right? Chaplains learn how to present without absorbing trauma. They care deeply without internalizing distress. So It's not that when you're serving people and you have met with a person for that day that you walk away and forget about them. No, it's that you have been trained to care, to love, to sit in presence, to sit in emotionally difficult environments. But when you get up and walk away, you know how not to absorb all of that, take that on and wear it as a badge that it takes over your life and you're unable to function, right? You can hold that space without carrying the weight. You can hold the space without carrying the weight. Now, something else that we teach chaplains as leaders is role clarity. Role clarity. Clarity is a big word. A lot of people use the word clarity. Chaplains understand what is theirs and what is not. As a minister, as a leader, as someone who serves people, you got to understand your limits. You got to understand your realm of influence. You got to understand and not be confused. Don't be confused with your compassion being out of control. So they do not confuse compassion with control. Chaplains have clarity that prevents collapsing, right? Boundaries and recovery. Now, this is important. Chaplains are trained to step away intentionally. Withdrawal is not abandonment, it's wisdom. You notice how when Jesus finished ministering to the people, how he went over to the other side to steal away. He was not abandoning the people. He was simply withdrawing, because that is wisdom, taking time to withdraw yourself from constantly pouring, constantly giving. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with the desire to want to give and to serve and to pour and all of that. But there's something wrong when you want to do it beyond your capacity or beyond what you are physically and mentally able to do. Just be honest. I can't do it all the time. So it is wise to be able to step away and not abandon, but to withdraw for a time, right?
Yep.
There's an example in Mark chapter 1, verse 35, and that's what we kind of alluded to when Jesus was in ministry. He was doing intense ministry. I mean, healing the sick, raising the dead. That was intense ministry, that even when the woman with the issue of blood touched the hem of his garment, his ministry from Jesus was so intense that he literally felt the virtue leave him when this woman touched the hem of his garment. And so Jesus withdrew to pray, right? And so we have to understand that that is a very important. Jesus modeled sustainability, not self-sacrifice through exhaustion. Do not put yourself on the table of sacrifice because you're absolutely exhausted and just can't do anymore. It's okay. Take an hour, take a day, take a week to replenish, to pray, and to rebuild yourself up so that you can serve at your optimum capacity, right? Proverbs 4:23, and I think we've talked about this before, tells us to guard our heart. You know, when you are depleted and you're exhausted, you can't think straight.
Nope.
You can't make good decisions because you're tired. You've given everything you can give. And then there are issues and situations that could present themselves that will cause your heart to respond in ways that you would not normally respond had you had the proper withdrawal time, right?
Yep.
So longevity, if you want to last long in ministry, if you want to last long in service, if you want to last long in caring for people, even caring for your family, you need to use wisdom, right? You must use wisdom and be able to steal away and take the necessary time that you need to replenish. Now, all of this is important because we are all called to serve in some capacity, right? And so we want to just make sure that you have clarity around what burnout looks like and exhaustion looks like, and what it should not look like when you're serving in ministry. It is not a badge of honor. It is an exposure to an invitation to grow and to mature more in what God has called us to do.
Absolutely. If you've been carrying responsibility for a long time, If you've been carrying responsibility for a long time and you feel the quiet weight of it, this matters.
Yes.
I'm speaking to you. Burnout is not leadership maturity. Sustainability is. For leaders who are used to handling pressure, training doesn't weaken you. It sharpens you. It gives you systems so strength doesn't turn into strain. Come on now, you hear me because you're dealing with this, right? I invite you to apply and enroll in the Life Training Academy chaplaincy training and certification program. This is not stepping back. It's building endurance.
Building endurance. Come on now. It's not stepping back. It's building endurance. You know, one thing that I know about a spiritual leader, sometimes we feel like because we've been doing things a long time, serving in ministry, serving in our local churches, serving in our local communities, we say, well, I don't need anything. But I want to encourage you that training and certification is a good thing. It is a way to make sure that you are protecting yourself as well as those that you serve. And so around the screen, you'll see a QR code. You see our website at the bottom of the screen that you can go to and learn about our training and certification program. This is year 3, and it's our 4th cohort. And we are now on demand, so you can take the classes according to your schedule and your availability. I'm super excited. Our chaplains that have come through our last 3 cohorts are absolutely amazing. We are still connected to them. We are still serving them and learning from them. Where they are now is just simply amazing, and we're just excited what God is doing with this chaplaincy program. Life Training Academy is on schedule to be one of the premier chaplaincy certification schools and academy in the U.S. in the years to come. So don't go to sleep on this. Go ahead, scan the QR code, and learn more about what we're offering for you to build capacity and not experience burnout. We hope that you enjoyed this. We hope you would share it with somebody, drop a comment, drop a question, and we will be back with you not only on next Tuesday, but actually on this weekend on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. to do office hours where we answer your questions that you send in, and we answer questions live all around chaplaincy. Yes. May God bless you. I hope you were blessed by this, and share the video with somebody. Come on.
Yes.
Sharing is caring.
Absolutely.